Hi, it's Paul McIntyre. Welcome to the final edition of In the Can for 2016. Rob Norman, this week, what has emerged for you? What are the big themes for you?
Well, there's two cans, at least, and there's a can which is about a festival of creativity in everything, creativity in the traditional sense, but also in data and various other things and technology. And there's the business of can. And I have to confess that I spend much more of my time on the business of can than I do on the creative part. And so, if I think about the big things that I've heard people talking about, it's been the inexorable rise in market share of Google and Facebook. It's been, from a technology point of view, what the prospects are and the early content experiments with VR and AR, and they have been the two kind of dominant themes on the creative and business side for me.
What are the big advertisers and clients talking to you about? What are they asking you?
Oh, well, goodness. I mean, I think that the interesting thing is you get positive and negative views and when you have situations emerging that look like people to duopolies. So the first thing I've been saying to them is that a duopoly that looks like is happening now is kind of better and different from the monopoly that people assumed Google would have if you'd asked that question 4 or 5 years ago.
So 2 players is better than 1?
Well, and also when you listen to the Snapchat narrative, and more important, look at real-life consumer behavior and look at the user growth of Snapchat, and you look at the way Amazon is developing as a business, it's kind of not really true that there's a duopoly developing in the way that people think it is. And I actually think there's a significant chance it's becoming more competitive in a way than it has been for the last few years.
Mike McGrath, you're also a CMO at PwC. You've been through some of the work in the forums at Cannes. What have you taken out?
Sometimes people think, you know, creative is this God-given right, but, you know, as you sit and listen to a lot of the speakers throughout the week, you see that it can be a learned skill. So this whole theme of the creative process and outcomes that can come from that has been really illuminating for myself. And
some might say it's a strange fit for PwC to be here and talking creative.
Many would.
Wrong perception, do you think?
Many would.
Creativity is very popular in accounting.
Yes, that's right.
One might challenge the use of creative, but when we think of how we engage our clients and how our clients engage a creative process to drive change in their organizations, creative is more and more a critical skill to drive outcomes.
There is a lot of talk about the competitive threat from the advisory firms, PwC, to the traditional or the media and creative agencies. What is your view on what your intent is and how that competitive game will play?
Yeah, look, I think we look at the industry as being a very attractive industry, obviously, and we do so with a view to supporting our clients, but also looking at opportunities that a firm like us can add more value.
Well, I think we're in the same business, honestly. I mean, I think they're complementary parts of the value chain. I envy their relationships at the CFO level and at the CIO level in the enterprise. I think that's very true. I think that they probably envy our relationships with the CMO and the owners of content and the distributors of content, which are much deeper and richer than theirs. I think there's plenty of room for us to coexist, and I imagine that both of us would think that if we wake up every morning and say we've never been more innovative and never been less complacent, we'd be happy.
Great. Now, Michelle Teague, you have been a judge on the Creative Effectiveness Awards this week. Tell us about that and what stood out for you.
We decided early on as a jury that it was going to be about ROI. So, you know, to be in creative effectiveness, you have to have won creatively here at Cannes previously. So it's the best stuff, 109 case studies. Blown away how many didn't have an ROI in them. So we early on, we're not giving gold to anyone that doesn't have an ROI. Right. Now that's sometimes it's difficult. You know, we were judging Indian charities versus big Super Bowl campaigns versus John Lewis, Little Monty Penguin, who won Grand Prix.
I think you talked about there was one piece of work that probably would make Rob happy. It had programmatic in it.
We loved The Economist, and we actually awarded it very highly. So, you know, a publication that's losing relevance or, you know, shrinking, trying to reboot their future, identified a younger segment, primarily female actually, and through social media listening defined the characteristics and what they were interested in, used programmatic to reach them, but then used good old-fashioned copywriting to write headlines in real time relevant to news feeds.
Right. The Economist has always relied on a return on simplicity and relevance.
Yeah.
They're advertising for 30 years.
Yeah. And it was hugely successful, and you know, I said I had this picture of the techie, you know, data guy sitting in a room with a writer, just waiting for the news headlines to come in, and they were writing it in real time. It was superb. We loved it.
Mike, what themes and speakers stood out for you this week?
I think right now we've got a situation where there's a tremendous amount of content, which is just almost impossible at times to wade through as a consumer, and in some cases as a business. So, great content, great creative wins.
And so overall for you, what do you take back to your team and your business?
Well, I'm going to start briefing my agency in the can entry format.
Right.
So, because I think it will, I know how to write the perfect entry now. I haven't spent hours doing that, but I also think it puts the discipline in around putting the measurement framework in. And I think what was quite shocking to some of us of massive global brands, packaged goods brands, they've got the econometric modelling and all the research, and they didn't put the metrics in. They were all writing about social media and, after a while, 10 billion impressions, which just was not cutting the mustard. So no context. So again, as a jury, we decided that is just, wallpaper, really. It's got to be around the hard dollar at the end.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next year for another series from In the Can. See you then.